Hey everyone, so today I'm doing a little video on the 53 Chev 5-window rat rod that me and my father built. It's going to be a short video, but there has been a lot of interest in this around the west coast of Newfoundland, so I figure I'd get some close-ups of it. So here she is. She's a 53 5-window, and it came from the original owner in Pinemal, Newfoundland. And it took 3 years to build altogether, with a lot of sleepless nights thinking of how to build it. So the body is 53, of course, and the engine is a Isuzu 4-cylinder turbo diesel with a 6-speed standard, which came out of a 2002 W3500 Tiltmaster. And it took a bit of cursing to make it fit, but I did do it. It's actually quite a big engine for a 4-cylinder, but with a bit of ingenuity, I think it took me about 2 weeks to make it fit in there. I had to cut the firewall and extend that back. The mounts pretty well dropped in place and I had to weld them on. And I had to extend the intercooler pipes, as you can see. And I also had to extend the front fenders that much to make everything fit around. On the front of her, it has a set of train horns. I don't have them hooked up yet, but apparently they're extremely loud. I need a built-in compressor onboard tank to operate them. I got rid of the bumper on it because it just looks way better without the bumper, and put in aftermarket headlights with green black backglow, which you can't see because the batteries aren't hooked up in her where she's stored for the winter now. And from there I made my own fan shroud and double intake. So, besides that, the exhaust was a little tricky to run on it. Let's see if I can get a close-up. I had to put some header wrap on it because it was really close to the body of the vehicle. And I also put a shroud out of an old storage locker around the alternator to protect it from the weather, since I run it without a hood. Here's the shifter cables for the transmission. And there's a lot of wiring in this because I used a whole harness out of the Tiltmaster to put in here. Now, making that double intake was pretty challenging too, I must say. But it works good. Turbo and everything works beautiful on it. And this thing is amazing on fuel. You could drive around for a week straight in this on about $20 worth of diesel. She just works that good. Use a gravel guard container for the overflow for the radiator. Again, that's just some of the ingenuity, trying to make it a rat rod, you know, something different. This is bypassed for the heater because it's a summer vehicle, so you don't need a heater in it. I do have an electric heater up under the dash door in case it's raining out and for defrosting and that. There's our fuse box. The steering shaft is made up of 3 different steering shafts out of different various vehicles. And if you notice right there, there's a boogie wheel off a Citation Skidoo for a steady bearing for the steering shaft. And it works amazing. It just works really good. All new copper brake lines on her. The whole front end was done in this. Everything is made safe on it. The handbrake works. Everything works as it should. The handbrake is actually built onto the dry shaft on this, onto the drum, because that's off of that Tiltmaster too. The fenders, I had to cut them and flare them out with a pair of vice grips and roll a bat through them and dry everything. But believe it or not, they do not scrape. You got to hit a really bad bump for them to rub there now. But even if they do rub, they're only going to hit the smooth edge on the bottom, which don't hurt them. I think it might have rubbed twice since I drove it. And the chassis on this is off of a 95 Chevy dually diesel. Of course, it had the old 6.2 diesel engine in there, so that was no good, so I hauled that out. The running boards are the factory running boards, but they were in such rough shape, I said, well, I'd like to put them on, so I put them on and cut out what was bad, and I cut up flywheels and welded them in, and they're very strong now. You can step on that, no problem at all. The rear view mirrors are Krager center caps with the cutout mirror that you buy from Walmart and stick on. And to adjust them, they have sway bar links off of a Ford Focus. So you can adjust them wherever you need. It's all new rubber in it because we wanted everything sealed up good. The wiper motor was challenging. I got a rear wiper motor off an old Chevy Blazer and modified it to fit here so the wipers will work properly, because this did come with a factory vacuum operated wiper motor, which was pretty well garbage. The two front glasses are new ones because they were both in rough shape. Seats are out of a smart car because I built my own floor in this and it was very challenging to build a floor. As you can see, I actually channeled the floor down over the chassis so the vehicle looks like it's lowered, but it's actually not. So that gave me less space inside, but the whole floor is all handmade. And I went through quite a few rolls of MIG wire to do it. Then I seam sealed everything, and then I put that sound deadener in Dynamat all through it. You can see it back here. That's all Dynamat, and I used just acetylene on a torch and torched it to give it a different look. Same with what I did right here. That's all done with acetylene torch and then clear coat it. And then I put rubber mats in and cut them to fit. Clutch pedal and brake pedals all out of the tilt master, so is the steering column, but I had to modify the clutch pedals and that quite a bit to fit in there. So the factory gauges are not hooked up, but they all light up with LED lights. And the toggle switch there, that is for the LED back glow on the headlights. There's a shifter. I found it a nice looking shifter knob. It was something different, so that's what I went with. Pistons are out of a big rig apparently, and I had them reamed out so they make drink holders. Handbrake works fine, and I got the gauge set out of the W3500 Tiltmaster and mounted them into the center console, and they all work properly. If anybody ever seen Mad Max Fury Road, you'll recognize this bobblehead. It actually costed quite a bit of money to get one, but I found one in the UK on eBay. So as soon as I seen it, I ordered it and got it to come in, and I mounted it there. And I also put fans up there because summertime, sometimes in Newfoundland we get 1 or 2 days of hot weather, so that comes in handy for those couple of days. And here's the rest of the interior. It was still quite a bit of work to build this. I mean, even though it was not restored, it was a lot of work. More than just a regular restoration. Like, this is a whole new level of restoration, doing something like this. And the challenge was unreal, but I did enjoy it. I loved it. I had to change the whole rear window section. You can see the spout welds. I left all the grinder marks in it and clear coated it, because the rear window section was rusted out on it. I also incorporated a lot of this metal strapping into it with the holes in it, just because I like the look of it. It's something a little different. And you'll see that elsewhere on the vehicle. So going back, here's the rear window section. I actually found this window section on a truck out in Cornerbrook, Newfoundland, up on a mountain in the middle of nowhere where a quarry used to be, and it was in really good shape. And I kind of like the color on it with the rust. It really shows up nice. So that's put in there. There's a seam sealer in behind it, so it don't leak. So far so good. And this fuel tank is also out of the Tiltmaster, and I mounted it up onto the chassis because perfect spot for it, right? And around that I built my own structure, as you can see, the bars and everything, for the stacks, which are removable very easy with a couple of muffler clamps. And the rest of the exhaust is made up out of an old Chevy roll bar. It was a split pipe off of a Chev truck, and each side of the split goes to a roll bar like this, which goes up inside the stack, and it just lifts, the stacks just lift off of it. And next to that I put the battery tray. It takes 2 big batteries, so of course they're out for the winter now because we got them on trickle charge for the winter. Here's our fuel separator. Dry shaft had to be cut. I had a fella in Cornerbrook do that for me and balance it, because of course that was all different, using a couple of different vehicles. Altogether it's just 3 different vehicles to make this work. And on the back you got a 5th wheel off a tractor trailer. It is functional, but I mostly put it there for weight because, I mean, it needs a bit of weight on the back. I didn't want to put a box on it. I had a vision in my mind when I started building this that I just wanted a fifth wheel on the back, give her a tractor-trailer look. I couldn't find dually fenders anywhere, so I made a set out of 2 single trailer fenders with, again, that strapping going through it, welded it together, and I used rebar all along the bottom, and I wanted them really close to the wheel, so that's the look I got. And I just got it working with the suspension. So they're welded there, and they're bolted down to the shackle bolts on each side with conduit. The reason we went with some of this electrical stuff, there is a bit of electrical into this theme, is because I'm a first year electrician and my father is a journeyman electrician, so we incorporated that into it too. And again, new shocks on the back. The rear diff cover was changed because that was actually rusted out. Put all new fluid in it, new wheel cylinders, all new brakes. Everything is all done new on this. So even though she looks rough, she is very dependable. On the back, this is actually the back bumper that was on the 53 Chev, the original chassis. And where it had a big drop pin in it and that, I found it looked kind of cool, so we reused it and made it fit onto this bumper. The connecting rods belong to those pistons inside that's used as drink holders, and a set of old Land Rover taillights fit in there perfectly, so that's what we went with. On the bottom I just used reflectors that I cut to fit in the bottom part of the connecting rod for the signal lights. And she got her marker lights down there. She does have an ID light over under the license plate too, so that's all done legally. Because the cops got a lot of attention from the cops around Stephenville with this. They never did bother me with it, or my father when he was driving it, but they did notice it, that's for sure. She has a carrier bearing in her, so the front part of the drive shaft is off the Tiltmaster, but the back part of the drive shaft was welded and joined to the dually drive shaft, the Chev dually drive shaft. So yeah, it was a bit of improvising, but you know, it made it fit. And she does have rust here and there, but that's all the beauty of it. Even the door handles made out of rebar, because the ones that were there were gone. There was nothing left of them. She still got her VIN number and everything in her, and she is legit for the road. And it's very fun to drive, I must say. I really enjoy driving this. I guess this summer she could have to go back on the road. There's a couple of little things I got to get done with her. Like right now, the power steering is not working properly. It's a little harder to steer, so I got to figure out what's going on with that. Whether it's air locked, or the steering box is bad, because I got another steering box. It's some little thing, but I mean it's just a minor detail that got to be fixed, right? Besides that, I think that on this side, the exhaust pipe actually rubs on the stack a little bit, which can get, yeah, it's really tight there, as you can see. And I got to extend that out so it's centered under that so it don't rub anymore, because it do get annoying after a while. You hear that rattling in the cab pretty plain when you're driving. But except for that, she drives like a new vehicle. She just drives really nice. But yeah, I took some leaf springs out because, as you know, I don't need that many leaf springs to haul heavy loads anymore because she's just a cruiser now. I believe I took 3 leaf springs out on each side, and I could probably take a 4th one out and get away with it. Just because it's, you know, you don't need it. But I'd spent so many sleepless nights trying to figure out how to build certain things on this, and she came a long way. And again on the inside, this down here, that's actually the kill switch. It looks like a choke lever, but the kill switch was giving issues, the factory one, the electric one, that you turn it off with a key. So I hooked this up to it, and it works great. So the way it is right now, you turn the key off, take the keys out, and it's going to stay running. But as soon as you pull that, she shuts off. That there is actually part of the original license plate off of this truck. Well, probably not original, but one of the older ones off it. 1976, I believe, or 75, one or the other, 76, yeah. And I do have the other original one like this. And I'm pretty sure that was the last time she was on the road before we got her, 1980. And she was sitting pretty well abandoned in this guy's backyard for years out in Pine Mall until my father found it and got it off him. The dash I actually had to cut out because there was so much harness belonging to that Tiltmaster, and I didn't want to chop any of that up. So I cut the dash out. You can see the seams along there. And I had to do that also to mount the clutch pedals, because that was just a lot of misery and a lot of curse words for that. But eventually, I think it took me 3 days just to get the clutch pedals and that installed properly so everything worked. So yeah, it was quite a bit of cursing. And the harness, yeah, is all complete. It's still all original. I mean, I could put ABS on this if I wanted to. I could put power windows in it if I wanted to. It's all wired up for it. But I mean, I know I'll never do that. I like the old school look for that, for the rat rod look. And the doors, we had to fix the doors up a bit. And I wanted everybody to be able to see the work that was involved with it. You know, it was nothing fancy or nothing, but it did the job, right? That's the purpose of a rat rod. It's supposed to look rough around the edges, right? And this vehicle could have been restored properly, but in my opinion, she made a way better rat rod for the money that would have been involved with doing it as a proper restoration. Doors shut beautiful and everything. That was a lot of work too, to get everything lined up properly. Because when we got this truck and I took the cab off of the original chassis, I had it braced and everything, but she still twisted a bit. And then trying to line everything up to make the floor fit properly and everything else fit properly was a bit of a challenge, but she went together pretty good. So there she is. Hopefully see her on the road this summer.